ladies, we're mothers, friends, wives. What do you make of this?
I mean, the thing is, we are just talking as four ordinary women, and as you say, it'll be the conversation no matter where you go today. Nobody likes the idea of war. I really believe that. But the reality is, today is an historic day, and this will be written into the history books. And although we hate the thought of it, the reality also of the terrorism that we've been faced with is like a cancer, in my opinion, like an ISIS cancer that's spreading throughout the world. So we have to stand strong. And we have to try and do something about it. I mean, my brain, certainly, I don't have any answers, as indeed most people don't. But we have to do something about it and stand up to this fascist type of terrorism. And I'm going to break it down in my simple head, a simple analogy. If, for example, you go to the source of money, where are they getting the money, and cut that money off? If they're making millions, as I heard in the news today, from oil fields and selling to various countries, if you cut off the source of money and cut off the ammunition and guns, at least you're getting to the source of where they're getting the money, where they're getting the guns, and perhaps get to the bottom of the infrastructure. So it just seems like a logical thing to me. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I feel really uncomfortable about it because it scares me, and I kind of feel that, you know, it sort of perpetuates this cycle of violence. And does it then mean that it's going to wind up some other people somewhere else who are going to rise up? But that said, I think there comes a point where you have to trust a government.
I have a little thought in my head, I mean, in terms of sometimes too much information is given out about how they're combating terrorism. Because I did hear one, I think it was Foreign Secretary being said, well, I mean, can you reassure us that feet will not be on the ground? And he goes, excuse me, I am not going to tell you anything about whether there are feet on the ground in any country. And sometimes I think, you know, although we're involved in news programmes quite a lot, I sometimes think we give away too much information. Keep it all to the side of the government.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That is the kind of scary thing, isn't it? It's so complicated. I was just reading through it again this morning, and I've been chatting to people all around the building about it. We're all so confused, but it's such an enmeshed mess. I'm like you, Jane. I worry about further radicalisation and building more hate, and does it make us more vulnerable? So I go to that place, and then I go to the other place of just how horrific it is, what they are doing, and what people and the suffering that is going on out there in the Middle East. My mum and dad are in Jordan at the moment, and I know it's a long way from where they're bombing, but it just makes me feel just on edge, just makes me feel really nervous. I just want them to come home.
You mentioned Jordan, which is a very interesting point, because the other thing in the mix I feel about fighting ISIS is that some Muslim countries also have to join in the fight, like Jordan, like Iran.
Well, Jordan are doing so much, though.
No, but we all have to band together if we're going to do it.
Millions of refugees.
But you're right, it is ridiculously complicated.
It's so complicated. I mean, how many of us really understand what's going on? And so, for me, with what went on last night, to be honest, it's so complicated that I'm having to hand it over and hope that the politicians have information that, like you say, that they can't share with us, and that they're making decisions.
But if you also look at the situation in Syria, we don't even know, are we fighting, you know, 2 years ago we were saying let's get President Assad out. Now are we fighting to help Assad against the rebel forces, or are we we just don't know.
Well, it's a civil war, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just...
I think what's interesting as well is picking up on what you said, Gloria, about, you know, are we giving too much information away? I think because of what happened with the legacy of Tony Blair, I think the government have to make absolutely certain that everybody is very aware as to how and why they've come to the decision that they had. So I think that, and to point out the differences between, you know, the situation with the Iraq War and obviously the situation now. I agree with all of you. And obviously, when it initially started, I thought, oh no, please don't. You know, let's not go down that road again.
How many times we've messed up?
Well, and you've got young children. You've all got young children. You've got to think of the safety of them in years to come.
Yes,
you can't have the terrorism.
Safer here, though.
Well,
is it?
We'll see. Anyway, a lot of comments. Thank you for those. Angie says, of course we should bomb them. This disgusting thing needs to be eradicated. If this is what it takes, then I'm all for it. Kirsty, on the other hand, says it's not right. We are now no better than the terrorists. Seeing those MPs cheering and applauding last night turned my stomach upside down. And Yes, the lady in the front row agrees with that. And Carly said it should have been up to the public to decide whether we go to war again. Bombing them will not solve the situation.
But then, like Jane said, we don't necessarily have all the information to make an informed choice. So at some point you have to hand over responsibility and control.